I'm first going to talk a little bit about organizational strategy, competitive advantage, and information systems. So the question becomes, why are there businesses uh, that evolve, and why are they there, and what is it that keeps them running and active? And before we get into our Wiley Plus simulations, it's a good idea that we have some understanding and background based on why it is we're going to do what we do online. So we need to just start by looking at briefly business strategies, pressures that they face, some competitive advantages, and also we're going to take a quick look at Porter's model relating to competition and rivalry. And the first thing we have to realize at the bottom line of every business is to make money. And with this idea in mind of making money, there are things that are faced, such as market pressures, technology pressures, and societal pressures. The market pressures would involve costs, perhaps new similar companies or businesses entering the market, uh, you know, trying to compete for selling the same type of product. Technology pressures is any IT department who needs to stay innovative and develop, support systems, implement software. And then there's societal pressures, which is basically, what society wants to pay for a product, or better yet, we could call it customer loyalty, is another thing that is very important and needs to be considered. So, first thing I want to talk about is these technology pressures. And technology innovation and obsolescence, okay, means that for any company who stands still for too long and does not innovate with information technology, uh, their products, their employees, there's a good chance that they will not survive. Now, for the sake of our course, and also for essay questions, I'd always like, the essay questions to be answered based on our readings or information technology because this is really what our main focus is on. So, talking about technological innovation and obsolescence, okay, as one of the pressures, there's also something called information overload, uh, where if there's too much information in a system that cannot be handled, or we don't have enough employees who are skilled enough to understand the data or have those knowledge workers that need to have that ability to think in terms of complexities, uh, this is a threat to your business. So when we talk about technological innovation obsolescence, we look at the Pony Express to the Telegraph, the horse and buggy to the Ford Model T. Okay, and some of the societal uh, pressures, okay, can be considered political and legal pressures as well, which one is social responsibility of any company. And that social responsibility that any company has is to people, their employees, that they are reporting their finances, that they are playing the game fairly according to their ethics. We're going to get into some ethical issues later on down the road in the semester. So, social responsibility uh, kind of falls under this matter for those at the helm or the head of any company. Okay, and then you have government regulation and deregulation, which are part of the societal pressures. And government regulation is that companies report their finances. And we're going to learn later on as well that there's two types of financial management in businesses. One deals with internal matters, and the other one deals with external matters. Of course, any business must protect against terrorist attacks, keep their systems secure as well. So, these are just some of the things that any business will feel the pressure of and needs to keep at the forefront of their thinking. And of course, the last one is the ethical issues. Also, social responsibility would call a need for green information technology. Uh, it has here one websites that enable generosity, one laptop per child initiative. Does your company, who you work for, or mine, do they in fact, give back to the community? Okay. Again, you might ask yourself, well, how does this all relate to IT? And I think as we go through the semester, I think the it's like a dot to dot that everything will kind of connect. And once you see the final picture, it will become more clear. But because of this green IT and these initiatives, any information technology department is involved with these things in their systems, just as much as the people who are not technical who are making these decisions. And then when we think about organizational responses, any organization has to think about strategic systems. And I guess per our reading, I guess on page 52 that was assigned last week, strategies for competitive advantage. And I know one of the questions I had posed was, is IT a necessity? Is it a nice to have, or is it a competitive factor? And really, it's based on, it is a must these days, and it's based on these strategies that you should focus on and reread again if you need to on page 52 under strategies for competitive advantage. And under there, it has cost leadership, which means, and there's a nice chart at the top of page 52, I can sell at a lower cost than you can. Okay, the second strategy being a differentiation stage is I'm better because I'm different. What makes your product unique? What makes your IT systems more unique and more efficient than other IT systems where you can leverage an advantage over another company? The third one is the innovation strategy, which could also tie together with the second strategy of differentiation. Um, we need to innovate. At my company, we're constantly trying to think of new ways to automate tasks and events or business processes that we have not got into yet, but I will be posting a lecture for that. But we're always thinking of ways to innovate so that our systems can be run most efficiently. Okay. And then number four, we have the operational effectiveness strategy. Okay. And just like it says in that chart, it says, I can do the same thing, but more efficiently than you can. And then, of course, the other competitive strategy is customer oriented. I treat my customers better than you do. And customer loyalty is a big factor because you always want your customers to be coming back. And at the same time, we also want to be able to reach out to our customers using e business and e commerce, meaning uh, the internet. So, with that in mind, we should talk about, whenever we talk about IT, we always want to think of competitive advantages and strategies in terms of information systems and how they can be used. And then here we're going to take a look at Porter's competitive forces model, which actually this competitive advantage and Porter's competitive forces model actually, starts back on page 47 under 2.4 of your reading assignments last week. And here it lists these five competitive forces which companies must face in order to survive. And this is a pretty good chart here that kind of gives a good overall picture of what he is talking about. Now, if you're not familiar with these, they are on page 48. You should know them, okay? He talks about the threat of new competitors. Obviously, someone had asked me about Borders books last week, why they went under or fell, And obviously, I believe, I'm not sure, I think Borders was around before Amazon, but Amazon definitely took away lots of business from people. And Borders did not fight back hard enough. And this, proves one of the competitive forces model that Porter talks about, which is the threat of new competition. The second one being, okay, the power of suppliers. And it says right here, supplier power is high when buyers have few choices from whom to buy and when buyers have many choices. So you want to have, as a company, a large amount of vendors who are competing for best prices. If you have only a certain amount of vendors to choose from, you are going to be stuck paying higher prices, which is going to take away from your bottom line. And then, of course, he talks about number three, the bargaining power of customers, your buyers. First sentence says right here, buyer power is high when buyers have many choices from whom to buy, and low when buyers have few choices. Okay, so the market itself, okay, and what customers want or need based on how much of it is in demand will pay a certain price. So, in order to keep customer loyalty, to keep your customers coming back, you must have a marketing division that at least will, you know, research, analyze each day what best prices are. And we're going to get into a little bit more about marketing and sales uh, as soon as we start to talk about business processes and functions. And Porter's number four, it talks about the threat of substitute products or services. Okay, and he says right here, if there are many alternatives to an organization's products or services, if someone else, and I could give a good example of this, there is a company, Dorman, who makes automobile parts to be replaced. And what they do is they re-engineer the part. Uh, they take the original part and they re-engineer it using their own numerical control, however they have to rebuild it, 3D CAD, and they then sell the part. And actually, the stock for this company has done really well over the last several years. I have a relative who works there, and what they do here is they substitute the same thing for a lot cheaper price. And then number five, Porter concludes with the rivalry among existing firms in the industry. The threat from rivalry is high when there is intense competition among many firms in the industry. I cannot take questions from you, so I have created an online forum. Due to the bad weather, we can use it as a help, uh, as a help board amongst ourselves. And I strongly encourage, if either the lecture or the assignments don't make sense, sure, you can send me a web study mail, but also be encouraged to post something on the board to see if one of your classmates can respond. It's a good way to practice team collaboration. Um, so that wraps it up for lecture one. And please watch lecture two following this one. Thank you.